So this is who we are, Shabbington Nature Network. So I live in Shabbington. It's a small village just into Buckinghamshire. It's a village of about 200 houses, about 600 or so people. So probably very different to some of the groups that the rest of you are involved in. And maybe that makes it easier, I don't know. But the reason we got involved in nature recovery was because our local parish council sent out their usual newsletter, and there was a paragraph in there saying that Buckinghamshire had been chosen as one of the trail counties for the government scheme. So this was before the Environment Act came in last year. So did anyone have an interest and would like to get involved? So that's how I got involved. And myself and the guy who is or was the parish council chair are sort of founder members, and we've had a couple of people come and go, but right now there's 5 of us that are involved as sort of core members, and I think we're quite a good group. And although I always think, oh, we're not doing enough, but actually when you look back at what we've done, we have done quite a bit, and we are, you know, continuing to work on it and try and get more and more people in the village involved. So first of all, when I got involved, I did approach the Wildlife Trust because I realised that I was no expert, and very kindly the community officer at that time came and did a little walk around the village with me and gave us some ideas on what we might do. So that was how I originally got involved with the Wildlife Trust, and then obviously that's gone on to now working with Lily. And just to say that we're set up as just a working party of our parish council, so that we don't have to get involved in having a proper committee and treasurer and all that sort of stuff. The second slide here just shows our little logo that we like to use, and I'll come back to curlews at the end because that's quite important to us here in Shabbington. So we launched our little group last June. So we haven't actually been going that long either. I know through talking to some of the people on this group, you know, a few have been going for an awful lot longer, but we're relatively new. And we launched our group at an open gardens event. So that was something the village does now and again. And we had this little stall and lots of information there, and gathered some names and email addresses and what have you of people that might be interested in joining us and you know, doing some nature recovery in the village. And all these boards with information on are now used all village events, so we update them and what have you. We have constant information in our little village hut, which is our village hall. So there's always things for people to see and see what's going on. So we launched back in June, and then one of the first things we did was to set up a Facebook group. So we have 80 members, as you can see there. Most of them, or the vast majority, are people in the village. There's 1 or 2 people that have supported us through various things, and they've asked to join as well. And actually that's been quite good because they're very supportive. So, you know, if I put comments on there, they're likely to back me up and be quite enthusiastic about things. So that's good. I'd like to get the number up higher. But anyway, we know we've got a fair few people, and the idea with that Facebook is obviously pretty much the same as the community Facebook, that people put their ideas and share things they're doing in their own gardens and perhaps sightings around the village, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's going quite well, but generally it's me that puts on most of the information. So it would be quite good if more people got further involved. So when we initially set up, we were also able to apply for a small grant from our local community board. So we were successful with that and got £500. And I did that by putting forward a project within a community area in the village. But luckily, we've been able to use that grant for other things, because we quite quickly ran into problems with that, because we wanted to put in some whips to build a hedge. It would only be 20 metres one way and then 13 metres another way, just to fill in an area where there were fences. But the people that lived quite near to this area decided that they were concerned about hedges going up. They were concerned about the maintenance of them, and they were concerned that we would attract lots of hedgehogs, which in turn would attract lots of badgers and ruin gardens. So, you know, it's interesting how people feel about these things. You think that they're very supportive, and then when it actually affects them, you know, it's a bit different. So we've put that on hold at the moment, and we've been able to use some of the money to buy a trail camera, and we've bought some wildflower seeds at the moment, but we've still got some of that money left as we go on. Then one of the first activities we did was to build this bug house within our Millennium Field, which is basically a recreation ground. So it has got children's play equipment, it has got a football pitch, but around the edge of it, there's quite a wide border that is quite wild. And this happened at a general village event that was a picnic, but we were able to, you know, get a few families involved in doing this. So that was quite nice. And then also in the village, we've been involved with trying to grow some or put in some wildflowers and seeds as well in the communal verges. So we managed to get this little chap involved. And indeed, when we had a bigger verge that we wanted to take out everything that was there and sort of start again, we actually got quite a good working party. Quite a few people, you know, did come and help us and take part, and a few people donated things. So that was quite good. Then one of the things we also tried was to send a seed catalogue around the village, because I've got an allotment in the village and a few people have, and through the allotment association we get a 40% discount on seeds. So I was trying to encourage people to buy wildflower seeds and vegetable seeds, grow their own veg, but that was really unsuccessful actually. So I offered it again this year, but again it was not very successful, so obviously people are not interested in that. But one of the things that we have done throughout most of last year was to run a wildlife photo competition in the village. And I did have them all printed out last time. We had an awful lot of entries last year that were nice scenes, and you know, you can probably see there's a picture of a bug house and what have you. So, you know, not always quite the right idea, but it did get people start looking at what we had in the village, you know, and sort of drawing their attention to the wildflowers and yeah, other wildlife that might be seen. So that was pretty successful last year, and we had somebody come, and a wildlife photographer actually, that's a friend of mine, came and judged the competition, and those were the 5 winners, and we turned the winners into greetings cards and sold those. So that worked quite well. And we've done the same again this year. We've had another competition, so I'll come on to that at the end. Something else we've been doing is having some bird walks. We're very close to Otmore here, Otmore RSPB Reserve, and I've through my connections, I know somebody that's a professional birder, so we've been offering a walk once a month, and people have to pay, but it's been pretty successful, and again it's trying to engage people more in nature and see what's there and sort of educate as well, and that has been quite successful. Sometimes it's difficult to fill all the places, but generally, you know, there's quite a good following, and we're going to continue with that next year as well. We started it probably August time in 21, and we've done it all of this year, and we're going to continue it next year. We might take it down to sort of once every other month, but that's been quite good as well. We've also had a wild area set up in our, or even left in our churchyard, which has been good. And we're also trying to have conversations with the local contractors who come and you know, cut the grass and verges and what have you in our village, which is quite tricky actually to find. Well, it's going to go out to tender again, because the people that have been our contractors are very sort of set in their ways, and to ask them to leave particular verges and what have you is not always that easy. So we're sort of still working with that. So as I said, at the sort of the last event from the first year was our photo competition, and we had the raffle, and just a nice evening with a presentation a bit about photography as well, and that finished our first year. And then this year we started off with a talk by somebody called Nick Mariner from the River Tame Conservation Trust, because we're lucky that we have the River Tame running through our village. And in fact, I have to say, you know, before I was more into this and understood more, I used to complain that we flooded in Shabbington and I had to drive, like, you know, out of my way to get out in and out of the village. But now obviously I realise that it's great that it floods and it's great for the birds and for the fertility and what have you. Yeah, so we're working with River Tame Conservation Trust, and I did put up Nick's details on the community Facebook because he's willing to do talks for other people, you know, perhaps within a closer area to where I am. I think he's based Aylesbury way, but he's really uplifting because he talks about his work with landowners, farmers. So he's a landowner engagement officer, and he's doing wonderful work with these farmers to help wildlife. So he's a really, really good person to hear from. We've also continued this year with our verges, with our photo competition, as I mentioned. We've also, as well as our bug house in the Millennium Field, we have added some more log piles. And again, quite a few people came down to do that, which was really nice. I put the word out on our Facebook page, and we have a village WhatsApp group. So yeah, families came for that, which was lovely. And then the next event we had this year was the one that Lily kindly came and ran for us, along with Kate from the Wildlife Trust. And this was a brilliant event. I was amazed. We had about 21, 22 people, and this was, we were learning how to survey our Millennium Field for the plants that were there and the trees that were there. And these people were very engaged in the event. They had to map out, sketch out the actual field, and then go around and identify all the plant life with the help of, you know, the Wildlife Trust people that were there. Ed Monday was also there. So that was a brilliant event, and we're going to do our own surveying following on from that next year is the plan. Then another good event that we did down in our Millennium Field was to build some bird boxes, and we had some kits given to us. So we invited children and their families to come down and put those together. And interestingly, this was the second event like this that we'd run. We tried one the previous autumn and had very few people take part, but this time we had 10 kits and they all went. So it was an improvement, and it just shows you have to sort of keep trying with these things, don't you? Then in October, beginning of October this year, I had another person I was introduced to who came down and did a small mammal workshop for us. He was also going to do a bat walk on the Friday evening, but unfortunately the weather was terrible. It was hammering down with rain. So instead he gave us a talk about small mammals, which was brilliant. And then again, about 20 odd people took part in this small mammal workshop. We've got fields around that we can access, and traps were set up overnight. And we had great success. The one on the left there is a bank vole. We had a couple of those. In the middle we had a wood mouse. We had 4 of those caught, and to the right we've got a short-tailed field vole, and again we had 4 of those. And also we had a shrew caught as well, but the guy who was running this session he went out at dawn to check all these traps, and he was worried that the shrew would be would not survive, because apparently they're quite temperamental, and they go, oh no, I've got to die. So he let that one go straight away and just took a little video of it to show us. But he said he'd never had so much success. So this is great. We know that we've got a good population of small mammals. We know that we have owls around. So, you know, it was really good, and everyone loved this event. It was quite hard for me to fill all the places because, again, we had to pay for it. But in the end, it was a huge success. And these were all the mammals that were either recorded that day, or all the people taking part could say they'd seen in our village. So, you know, it's very, very successful. And again, I have put his details on the community Facebook. He actually does work for the Wildlife Trust, but he does these things in his spare time. So, you know, you'll be lucky to get him, but do try it. It's well worth it. And then this was a presentation given by the Wildlife Trust for us. And this was about wildlife for, gardening for wildlife. And particularly looking at wildflowers that can be used in your gardens. So sort of trying to involve, more people doing things in their own gardens as well. And that night we also had a pre-loved clothes sale, and I've continued, offering those for sale. It's not taken off as well as I would like yet, but I'm not going to give up on that because I think it's such a good thing. And then our final event this year was the photo competition judging again. So we did that, and we had a little talk about wildlife highlights for the guy that is the wildlife photographer, and he also runs holidays, mainly birding holidays. So he gave us a little whistle-stop tour around the world of his highlights of wildlife, and we had a raffle, and we also did a quiz, because I thought that might bring people along that don't normally get involved in these events, because you do tend to find, it's great and we do have decent support, but it's always the same people that come. So I was trying to, widen the audience and try and get different people involved, and there were a few new people that came for the quiz, which was good. And then with the results of the photo competition this time, we had 12 photos chosen, and we've made that into a calendar, which I am so proud of. I'm really, really pleased with that. And it's got, not enough people, but more people than last year involved in looking at what we've got and appreciating it. So we called it a celebration of the wildlife in our village, and that was the result. And I'm busy selling those at the moment, but we've covered our costs and we're making some money on them now. So that's really, really good. Then just to mention very quickly our planned things for next year. We're trying to put together a whole year of plans so that we can try and apply for some funding. So what we were intending to do is work further with the River Tame Conservation Trust. We have an event where they're coming to talk to us in February. Again, they want to initiate a bathing status park on the river, which is near our pub, which you may know is the Old Fisherman, and it's a lovely location right by the river. And obviously, I'm not 100% in favour of having bathing status, but the upside of it will be that the quality of the water will have to be monitored by the Environment Agency. So I think on balance, it's probably a good thing for wildlife if it's managed properly and it's in the right place. So that's something that's going to be talked about very, very soon next year. Something else I'd like to do is to do some training on getting people to record what they've seen in the village. So I might be coming back to you, Lily, and saying, please help us with that. We've also thought that we might do a sunflower growing competition to get the kids more involved, because in the breakout group, my group we're talking about trying to get different sorts of people involved, and it is quite difficult in the village to get the children to join in. We're also going to do a dawn chorus walk. We're going to do, as I mentioned, the surveys on our Millennium Field, getting those people that took part in the training to come and do some different months of the year. We're going to have a bat walk that we couldn't do because of the rain last time. We're intending to hold open wildlife gardens. So the event before where we launched was just open gardens. So they look, really pristine and not wildlife friendly really at all. So we want to change that and try and show some gardens that are friendly for wildlife. We also want to do a talk on local birds. We want to join in with the Wildlife Trust's Big Wild Walk this year, or next year rather. And we want to do another quiz to try and get more people in, and we're continuing with our photo competition. And back to the curlew, we're also hoping to get involved with the curlew recovery project, because there are believed to be a couple of breeding curlews, a couple of pairs within Shabbington. So we want to try and get involved and see if we can help protect those and encourage more. So that's all about my little group. Thank you.